Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Danae, and I'm here with a message for you. Hope you're doing well. We're going to get right into it. I do not know what's at the bottom of this deck, so we're going to turn it over together and see what the overall energy may be. Okay, Knight of Cups, which is an emotional offer. The Knight of Cups is... What can be said about the Knight of Cups? Does there need to be much said about the I mean, you know how I feel about the Knights if you've been watching. The Knights, you kind of have to take the offer or the expression, with a grain of salt. You have to be discerning with whatever it is that's being offered, because with the Knights, it's like a diffused energy in a sense. It's not the king, it's not the emperor, it's not quite the page either, but there's some maturity, some experience there, but there also could be some ulterior motive or just something, depending on what the offer is and who it's being offered to, that could be left to be desired, especially when we're talking about cups, which ultimately is kind of love. Again, it's emotional. It could be an expression of gratitude. It could be flattery. Some even say that the Knight of Cups is even more, can be even more of a finesser than even, say, the Knight of Wands, which is known to kind of be a playboy, because the Knight of Cups can play on your emotional attachments or connection. It can be more emotionally driven, which, is often the key to our energetic force, really and truly. But before I go too hard in on the Knight of Cups, let's just keep in mind those vibrations. It could very much so be more of an upside of a love offering that is just growing, or it's in a stage that is there where there's some opportunity for expansion in a positive way. It could grow beyond what this baseline expression may be into something quite positive. But I think that's the key with the Knights. It's kind of like a middle ground, I would say. It could go left or it could go right. It could go on the lower vibration of things, and it could make an upswing. So let's just see what we got today. Hope you're doing well. Speaking of love vibrations, I hope you check out my last reading that I did late last night. It was pretty tantalizing, if I do say so myself. Speaking of which, this is where we started with the 10 of Cups. It definitely was more or less 18 plus. It wasn't too raunchy, to be honest with you, but it was definitely a more sensual and, it was a love vibe, a love reading, which was very fun to do. So I hope you tune into it. It was over an hour long. Wow, these are big cards. It was over an hour, so I know how that is. Sometimes when you see a reading that's more than an hour, you tend to kind of say, you got to really make some decisions about your time and whether or not you want to invest that energy, which I 100% understand. But I think that's 1 hour and 22 minutes that is, as a matter of fact, it was an hour, 22 minutes, and 11 seconds. Even the numbers were high vibrational, pretty angelic. I think it's one reading that's worth taking a tap into if you're particularly in the love vibration or attracting love. It just, to me, was a very promising perspective of what could be on the horizon or what's possible for your own conscious creativity, if you're here for that. So, yeah. Anyway, so we have the Judgment, the Wheel of Fortune, and then on the bottom of the deck, as I said, Love Galore, which happens to be the title of my last message. So yeah, this happily ever after, wish fulfillment, emotional fulfillment, spiritual fulfillment card here, partnership, union, the kids, the happy life, happy wife, multiple streams of income, legacy, dynasty. This is like a legacy of love that's being created. But the cards that we have out on the board right now, the top two, which are, I mean, my God, those are some heavy hitters. We got Judgment, which is either about second chances or final decisions, about some karmic force or evolution of creation, in a sense. And I know that's kind of like obtuse in a sense, right? Of an expression right there, but we'll see. We'll get into it. I mean, given we got this, all that I just said about the Ten of Cups, I would say it's definitely, an alignment that could be highly positive, that there's maybe perhaps some second time around, or just maybe yeah, that's what I'm hearing. Like there was a call to an evolution for for the purposes of this union. This, like, even if you look at this card here with the Judgment, it's like a man, a woman, and a child in this most prominent picture here. And then there's even the same energy in the back, but the first three definitely resemble that. And then you have the Wheel of Fortune card, which, as I said, it's about expansion. It's Jupiter energy. It's expansive. It's evolved. It magnifies whatever it comes into contact with. And the Wheel of Fortune, of course, as we know, is an implication of karma. And I would say in the highest vibration, dharma. So it just depends on whichever side of that ball game you're on. And I would venture to say definitely dharmic with this Ten of Pentacles, this Ten of Cups here that we have. So in connection to that Knight of Cups, I guess maybe there's more potential for maybe it is exactly what I was saying, more on the lower vibrational side, that's someone that is looking to bring an offer. But as I said before, there's already been a judgment call made, and the karmic wheel is already turning. Like the universe is moving on, is what I'm getting. So remember, I was kind of going more on and on about the less favorable vibration of the Knight of Cups, which is kind of like this offer where you don't really know the true nature of it, if it's really 100% pure and authentic, or if it's just kind of like some ulterior motive, some motivation of finesse, you know what I mean, to like manipulate some emotional attachment for self-gratification or satisfaction or whatever, whatever the ulterior motive may be of that knight. Knights generally are conquering forces. They're after some territory, either to protect it or to what do you call it? I always miss this word. To conquer it. I think I already said it. They're either after to protect it or to conquer it. Some of them loot and pillage the land and burn everything in sight. And of course, there are some honorable, you have every side of the spectrum. But for all intents and purposes, with that disparity, I would say that either there's someone that's looking to bring an offer that may perhaps seem, a little bit, maybe doesn't feel as engaged or as serious, for it to be a love offer as, one might be expecting. And perhaps it does have all the potential in the world to, in fact, grow with time. And perhaps it is, the judgment of the universe for there to be some ordinance with this connection of this offer one to another, or acceptance of this offer. And it does have the potential, but I guess in all things, just be discerning as to how the vibration of the offer makes you feel. Go with your true instincts, that you've been divined to use. You've been given authority over your emotional intelligence to use that as a point of intel and exactly, discerning what's good for you and what's not. You want something that's going to turn this wheel if you're turning on the highest vibration of the wheel of fortune, meaning you're evolving, you're growing, you're ascending, transforming, you're being called to, or I would say even having answered at this time to some greater call of self-awareness and identity, transcendent identity, then you just want to be clear that anything that's coming to align with you is going to match that vibration, which ultimately is going to be something that is either supporting, I would say this is the baseline, that's either supporting or helping to sustain this foundation of spiritual, emotional, and material fulfillment, all of them, because that's what this card implies, that there's some contribution in the most creative sense to protecting this vibration that is already being cultivated, helping to acquire it, helping to build with you, add value to it, and or helping to protect, what's already in place. So yeah, yep, and that was the World card. So let's see what else we got. All right. Okay, a little sloppy right now. When I'm leaning on my knees, sometimes it's not giving all this God. Let's see. Oh, I didn't mean to keep shuffling, actually. Let's not do that. Yeah. This is that vibration here, that outside looking in energy that's just wanting to see how they can benefit or access this elevation that's being cultivated, or that has been cultivated. They want in to that Ten of Cups. I keep saying Ten of Pentacles, which almost did come up on the bottom. And perhaps that's because that's the perspective that they have of it. It's more an objectification of the material return of this love vibration, this emotional fulfillment. It's not really for the purity of, it's not the purest pursuit of love in its organic form. Yes, the Ten of Cups is absolutely about the fullness of life, but it's more so about the quality than the quantity with the Cups versus the Pentacles card. Cups are like emotions and spirit. Pentacles are literally money, time, energy. And this particular onlooker, what else can I call them? Lurker, stalker. If not in the actual sense, he's just way too engaged with things that are outside of his control. That's how I read the Page of Swords a lot of times. Like, his attention is always focused on something that does not directly pertain or affect, it doesn't pertain to his affairs. It may actually affect his affairs in some way, shape, or form. Obviously, if he's looking to to connect in some way, but it's not, it shouldn't, let's say it like that. Like, he's definitely too focused on things outside of himself, and this is the outcome of that, ultimately, that there's a mental and emotional and energetic imbalance, like all of them with the Nine of Wands card, because he's looking back. He's also looking back here too, but he's looking back at missed opportunities, mismanaged energy, investments of his time and his creativity that just didn't amount to much. When we consider, this vibration of the Ten of Cups, that's someone that's looking back at relationships perhaps that he engaged in, that with it being a comparison from Cups to Wands, this is someone who's invested a lot of passion into different outlets, literally plugged into different sources, especially as a masculine energy. But he didn't really, but there wasn't really much of an insurgence of true power. You know, there might have been a spark, there might have been, you know, some, I don't even know what you would call that. Like, what do you call that? I don't know. It wasn't lasting, you know. It was like, you know, like jumper cables. That's the visual I'm getting right now. You know, where you have your jumper cables and they spark the car to come back to life, and you know, to reinvigorate a battery, keeping the car alive. But ultimately, you can't drive around with jumper cables. You have to have a well-working battery in the car that can sustain itself. So, okay. So he was looking to get energy from outside sources, always looking to be satisfied and energized and incited with, you know, passion that, what did I say, doesn't belong to him, is not of his affairs, you know? And when you connect yourself with so many different vibrations and frequencies that are not ornate, is that the right word? Ornate? No, not ornate. Organic, I guess I could say, to your own, that does run the risk of a spiritual, an energetic imbalance, which, yes, ultimately does lead to a spiritual imbalance, which is probably the reason for this judgment card here, because it just becomes like, it becomes like an energetic overload, you know, when it's interference. Your own identity, your own frequency gets lost in the shuffle. It's like, consider, literally, this is kind of like a card of spiritually transmitted diseases, you know. And it doesn't have to be in the sexual nature. First and foremost, it could, as I said, it can be, especially implied with the wands here, but it could be just connecting to too many frequencies that are not in alignment with yours, with your natural frequency, the one that you're being called to, the highest vibration of you. You allow yourself to, you know, roll around, like they say, you know, you roll around with dogs, you get fleas, type of thing. Not to be so derogatory, but these are just the expressions that are coming up, that eventually, if you find yourself in lower vibrational energies, those vibrations become a part of you, or you become a part of them, and soon you don't know where one begins and one ends. And you're looking back at all the investments that you made, the connections that you consented to, that ultimately, you know, this is a wounded warrior, that ultimately have not led to much in the grand scheme of things. And the demise of such intentions, well, I'll say the detriment of such intentions, is that it becomes hard for you to get present with the potential of your own possibilities anymore, because you're too focused, again, on what's going on behind you, outside of you, let alone to be, this doesn't really imply that, but it leads to that, to be anxious about what's coming ahead of you. You know, everything but the present is what this card implies, which is a quite dangerous place to be, because, you know, you're displaced from the realm of reality in which you have the most creative power and potential. You know, the present moment, that's what we create from, not from the past, because that's already come and gone. The future hasn't occurred yet. So what you're doing now, what you're focusing on now in this moment, is ultimately what is creating the future. And if someone is continuously looking backward with regret, remorse, with disdain and imbalance, then they're inadvertently, quite possibly, you know, most likely, just creating the same cycle of misfortune for themselves, is what I hear. Okay, so, yeah, all right. All right. Yep, there's that confusion card. I'm gonna just see how they come out today. If I need to move around, I will. So we got the Ten of Pentacles finally did show up. Here he is. I mean, here it is. Like it's a person, right? Hey, it could be. You could be the sole heir of some inheritance, because that's the Ten of Pentacles. You know, the beneficiary of some sorts. Again, the heir of a dynasty or a legacy, or of, some major company, or, it could be all of that, quite honestly. But we got the Ten of Pentacles, and I see the High Priestess peeking out. Can't help but see her. And what else I see? I see the Fool card, and then I see the Sun. Interesting. So perhaps that might have some meaning for us. We'll see in a second. All right, we'll see. So we got the Ten of Pentacles. Now that is the quantity of wish fulfillment in comparison to the Cups, which is the quality of life. This is some measurable expression of prosperity. Money in the bank, businesses, investments, dynasty, legacy of a monetary value, inheritance, some big money, ultimately. Money, generational wealth, as a matter of fact. Then we got the King of Cups, who, now this is who you want to see if we're talking about, but then we got the Four of Wands here. So what's this saying? This is who you want to see, as opposed to that Knight of Cups. But like I said, could it be that the Knight of Cups has the potential to grow? Is that what we're seeing here, Spirit? I'm going to ask in a second. We'll see what comes up in another row. But this is where that growth really is kind of showing itself. The only thing that's kind of throwing me off is this Four of Pentacles here. I'm not sure if this is a matter of being conservative, because what's making me uncomfortable is the fact that this is the Knight of Cups next to this Four of Pentacles, which could also be about holding back emotions, holding back something. It really is energetic with the Pentacles, but why is that here next to the King of Cups? The King of Cups on his own is already known to potentially hold a lot of emotions, but not necessarily express them. He's a keeper and a master of his emotional self, but he doesn't necessarily always pour out from his emotions. So next to the Four of Pentacles here, it's like, are we doubling down on that? You know what I mean? And then we got on the very top of this deck, we have the Seven of Cups, which I'm feeling, this can definitely be about having multiple choices to the point where it can cause some confusion, or, some resistance to decision making, or just interruption to making a clear decision. But it can also be about illusion and delusion, about self, and being in a state of uncertainty, given, this fog of sorts in front of you, and not really being empowered to make, I'm not feeling it. Not really feeling empowered to make a wise choice spiritually, emotionally, because of all of this. See, what it's given me is back to that, was that the Nine of Wands, about that, the investment of energy, and how it's similar to that, where your vibration is distorted, it's foggy, it's not clear, and that a person like that is untrustworthy unto himself, let alone to be trustworthy in a legacy or a dynasty, with someone. And then we got the High Priestess here, which is all about secrets, and the Sun here maybe perhaps is exposing, and then the Fool. I'm not feeling the vibration with the King of Cups. I really want to give him the benefit of the doubt that he means well, because in the highest vibration, he's the most loving king of them all. He, as I said, is emotionally intelligent, but is he operating from the highest capacity and fullest potential of that intelligence, or is it being mismanaged yet again in some illusion or delusion? For what? For the sake of, because he's holding on to this ideal of this Ten of Pentacles, which has passed, if we remember that past energy looking backward. And also here, you almost had me. You almost had me, King of Cups. You almost had me. But it's going to be a no for me, dog, because you're still focused on all the wrong things. Like, even with this is saying that this is a look back. Remember, this Page of Swords was looking back at the Nine of Wands, who was looking back at his mismanaged energy. This King of Cups is trying to look forward, or at least giving the impression that I'm not even worried about this Ten of Pentacles over here. I'm all about love. I'm all about life, and I'm all about, relationships, and I want to express my emotions, and I want to, dive into this ocean of my spiritual self. But yet you still holding on to money. You still holding on to material stability and security because of what perhaps something that was lost, that the judgment call was made on account of that missed energetic investment, those missed energetic investments, or mismanaged energetic investments. And this perspective of just being out of alignment with self-awareness, looking at who has what, who does what, and how you can align, looking to align with all the wrong people. Is giving me the energy of someone that was always glamored by appearances, ultimately, especially with the Nine of Wands energy. He was attracted to opportunities of advancement. Yeah, an opportunist, simply put, literally someone that's fixated on making a dollar and keeping a dollar and making a dollar work for them, but in a way, or I'll say making energy work for them, because it's not even also about the money, about making wise investments. Again, it's about using whatever energy is available, maybe yours, maybe not yours, to come up in some way, to gain, to make a gain, to hit a lick, ultimately, in an energetic sense, by any means necessary, really. And this disillusionment now is because of the judgment call. See the comparison even with those energies, with the clouds, and it's like some people are being awakened to their higher selves and transcending and ascending to new heights of their spiritual awareness, and some people are just waking up to the reality of who they've been. And it is, a foggy perspective, because it's hard to really look at, to look at, and hard to see through, when you kind of take inventory over the choices that you've made in life. This is like a mismanagement of love and spiritual energy, just like the Wands was a mismanagement of passion. The two in alignment is like a deadly cocktail. No wonder this Wheel of Fortune is here. And I'm saying this because in all of it, this individual is looking to get in where he fits in, literally to get into this Ten of Pentacles, where perhaps he fit in before, or he was a man of great wealth or stature or value in some way, or part of some community of sorts, where he was valued, or maybe even loved, but ultimately there was a disillusion about the true essence of what it means to be a loving being. Maybe that love in a position of power was distorted, again, for self-gratification, using that power of love in ways that were manipulative. Back to that Knight of Cups, where it's like it's distorted, it's there's something lacking, it's not a full cup, it's very much so glass half full type of energy. But to appeal to some possibility, presenting it as a full cup, presenting it as something vital, as something fulfilling and sustaining, when ultimately it was never really about love, it was never about emotions, hell, it was never even about spirit, it was always about money. What's behind this card? Yeah, and that it was for some desired outcome of stability. Like, this is what the motive is, to build this empire of sorts. But you can't build an empire on illusions. You know, it has to be, you can't build anything lasting on an unfortified foundation, you know. And if you're not certain about who you are individually, then as I said before, what you continue to do is create a cycle repeatedly for yourself that is fueled by this vibration of illusion. You know, even if it's a projection onto others, eventually, what I said earlier, it causes a spiritual or energetic dis-ease. So what you're putting out, ultimately, you know, you're the host for, you know. So all these methods of madness that were ultimately incited for this idolization, what this is giving me is like idolizing the position and what's the right word, like not the perspective, but the illusion of partnership, but it not really being that, you know, exactly what it's being, the presentation, that's what I'm trying to say, like the presentation of partnership. And even, you know, as I said, the reward of it, you know, the prosperity of it, that, you know, two energies are better than one, but it's steeped in some passion to me that is just, it's messy, you know. Ultimately it's messy, it's not pure, it's not clear, you know. It's very tainted, you know, not just the pursuit of it, but the passion itself individually from these individuals is tainted. So bringing it together just creates more of a hodgepodge of just, you know, mess ultimately. And here's the high priestess, because this has been the secret, you know, of this is what's been going on behind the scenes. You literally see how I like opened that card. I was like, let me see what's behind here. It's like, this has been the presentation of this, oh, we're a great couple, you know, we have everything together. We that projection of the 10 of Cups, you know, the house, the kids, the car, you know, presenting themselves to be one big happy family, when, you know, behind the scenes it's a big mess. And God knows, you know, the high priestess here is that vibration of, you know, of ethereal exposure with the sun as well. It's like, and it's foolery. It's exposure of something that is just not fortifying and not founded on anything. Is literally about to run off of a cliff. You know what I mean? And the high priestess vibration here is those energies that have been known in the spirit to be true now coming to light in a more in a public way. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's like literally public exposure in the most like, you know, like in the way of like social media or anything like that. But it's like even just it being brought to life between the two of what has been created, you know, or between, you know, this individual and what he has been creating. Like the naked truth of his creativity is being like, he's having to really face it, you know. And instead of him facing it head on and really digging more deeply into his spiritual nature, and maybe doing some healing, some shadow work, some, you know, some soul searching, literally. Maybe this is what this attempt is, some soul searching. But I still see this evidence here that there's still something left to be released by way of just like material idolization, you know, and maybe even fear, also a little bit of pride perhaps too, because there's this keeping this management, this over management of appearances that really can't coexist when you're looking to heal. Like you really can't be too obsessed about what you have and how you look when you're really serious about doing some healing. Like somebody that's really serious about being the King of Cups is not worried about if he still looks like he's the 10 of Pentacles or not, or if people still see him that way or value him that way, or even honor him as some high position of authority or any position of authority at all. Like, that's literally a fool's journey. And look what's right behind there, the Nine of Wands again, because when you're looking backwards, you're ultimately on your way over a cliff, you know, to a point of no return, again, where you're just you're creating a continuous cycle of karma, and not dharma, not the good stuff, you know, reward and repayment for good deeds. This is about lessons having to be repeated over and over again, because there's a refusal to surrender to healing, to spiritual healing, you know, or at least surrender to spiritual awareness, so that there can be some healing or some transformation of sorts. So let's see what we got. A few more and then I'm out here. Come on. I just want to make sure, because that was kind of a janky ass. That was kind of a janky shuffle, but these are the cards. These are the three. Hope you can see. Let me do a little stackaroo, because I'm not too sure you can see down here today. I did some readjusting, and I think it might have cut this corner out a little more than usual. So we have here, yeah, here's the Hangman, which is about, you know, being a little bit stuck. It could be multiple ways. It could be in a stuck and stagnant position. It also could be surrendered to enlightenment. Now, that would be the highest vibration, you know, if not for this Nine of Swords card and this Two of Pentacles card, because there's been this incessant focus on appearances and, you know, keeping up with the Joneses or the Kardashians or whoever the hell, you know, this person thinks is important to keep up appearances for and with. There's now even a diminishing again of resources to the Two of Pentacles, to this, and this vibration absolutely does mean juggling resources. This means not being stable in your material abundance, and also in your energetic stability. You know, like you're completely imbalanced, which has been the whole point, you know, of this reading. I don't know why we need to talk about this character so much. I'd rather not. I'm looking forward to when this energy is completely cleansed from my spiritual palette personally, because it's not productive to even call out this vibration if it's continuously landing in the same spot where there's this refusal to receive the enlightenment that is freely gifted to you ultimately from the divine. You know, when you have the intel, you have access to it, but you refuse to receive it and accept it, you almost continuously sacrifice yourself with the Hangman energy. That's what it's giving me in this card, like literally hanging yourself from a tree, you know, sorry for the trigger, you know, literally allowing yourself to be paralyzed by not, now this is the projection of the future that I was talking about. We had all the past projections with the Nine of Wands and the Seven of Cups even, but now we got this anxiety about the future, about things that have yet to occur, perhaps with the Nine of Swords, when you could be wrapping up or at least ending a cycle of psychological turmoil if you would just receive the enlightenment, you know, and shift perspective from being so materially obsessed and possessed to surrender into the spiritual satisfaction. And even in the most dire circumstances, when you truly surrender to the divine and whatever, the divine is trying to offer to you or lead you to, is automatically going to be more substantial and more substantive than anything you could manipulate from a physical standpoint. You could have all the 10 of Pentacles, all the money in the world, but if you're still lacking spiritual enlightenment, as I keep saying, you could have all that and still keep yourself on this loop trying to gain more, as if you don't already have more than enough to spend in this lifetime, let alone to pass on to another generation. That's how the spirit of greed takes over for those that are focused on, every single dollar they make and acquiring more, and, even being a bit of a miser in a sense, not really wanting to share, just wanting to hoard material wealth and gain to themselves, and energetically just counting every dime. You get into a space where that's all that matters, so that's all that matters. There literally is no other matter of sustenance in your life but what you can actually physically measure, account for, and it becomes a measure of who you are. But what happens when you have gained the whole world, but your soul is lost in the shuffle? You feel hung on the cross. You eventually get to a point where when the money can't satisfy you anymore because you're miserable doing what you do and being around the people that you're around and going to the places that you go and paying all these different bills and, maintaining this lifestyle that is not even, really appealing, to your soul, you ultimately end up in this space of anxiety because you're not really living for the truth of yourself. You're living for the appearances or the perspective of others. You're literally answering to what other people think and see and care about you, as opposed to what ultimately, in the simplest form, God sees and thinks and cares of you, and what calling literally he is, what he's calling you to, or what the universe in general is leading you from and leading you to. You ultimately just become a prisoner of your own life, hung upside down, feeling incapacitated to make any pure creative conscious decisions, always on this loop of anxiety because you're thinking about the past. You're thinking about, what if you lose it all? What if you can't keep up this lifestyle? What if, the fact that you might have to maintain the actions that you're taking for the rest of your life in order to, it doesn't give you any new vision for yourself to be in this state of mind. Literally it makes you impoverished. It makes you poor-minded, poor in spirit, because you feel like you're always going to have to answer to, this, this, I don't even know what you call it, but this is always going to be the thing that gives you the thing that you most desire. And so how can you ever be apart from it? Even if you hate it, it's like going to a job that you make hella money at, but you hate going there every day. Yet in your mind, you can't fathom the sheer idea of having to downsize your home, or, have one car as opposed to 3 and 4 and 5, you know what I mean? Or to maybe shop a little bit more frugally than to be buying all the designer brands and things like that. Here comes a monitoring spirit. Get your ass out of here. To have the latest designer brands and to go and, to have access to all the exclusive places because of your wealth. It's like when you care more about those things and those appearances than you actually do your sanity, your peace, your happiness, your joy, your contentment, your safety. God forbid you're doing something that's unsafe. So that's where where you could have a whole bunch of money and still be poor, to be impoverished, literally. But I feel that this is a vibration that's very literal, because there's so much pentacle energy that, because especially with the Wheel of Fortune here and the Judgment card, it's like the judgment of mismanaged gifts and opportunities, energy, vibration, frequency, mismanaging grace ultimately of a divine nature. That there has been a grace that was extended to this individual who's representative of, I'm sure, many individuals, that is now, there's being a fall actually from that grace because it's been mismanaged, because it hasn't been valued, it hasn't been taken care of. The responsibility wasn't well managed by the one who was supposed to be accountable for it. And now that a spiritual mismanagement absolutely results in a material mismanagement, where, like I said, you can go from having it all to literally robbing Peter to pay Paul. Bars. And we got the Queen of Wands here, and then I see the Justice peeking out from here. And you know what? I was actually going to stop anyway, so I guess that's that. The Queen of Wands, what's the Queen of Wands talking about? What's that? Oh, wow. Yeah. So, okay. So the Queen of Wands is carrying, when we think about the Queen of Wands, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna just have to say it how it is. This person forfeited true love and passion for lights, camera, action. Again, bars. It was, and not lights, camera, action, perhaps in the most literal sense, but the sensationalism of societal success. That immediate gratification, that acknowledgement, the reward that comes from a carnal creativity, a pursuit of carnal creativity as opposed to a spiritual one. The Queen of Wands is like in the position of power, and I've spoken about the Queen of Wands much before. So this is like an attractive queen who is master in manifestation. She's a master of her creative force, her inspiration, and also it coming from a very pure, loving space is what it is, but this energy, maybe that's perhaps what is to be desired now, as what caught my eye is this Knight of Swords looking at this energy. It's like maybe that's what's to be desired, and that's why there's this attempt to almost transform overnight, or at least present or project this King of Cups vibration, because there's an identification of attraction to a force of nature that is powerful, that is creative in all the ways that he likes to be, but that also does hold a love vibration from an ethereal source, that is connected, that's aligned to the source of love, not just passion. This isn't someone who mismanages her passion, as the Nine of Wands has, and is looking back on that, is reflecting upon. The Queen of Wands in the highest vibration, as implied here, is the master of her energetic force. She knows the value of it. She knows exactly what to connect with, what she allows to plug into her also, most literally, energetically, to co-create with, procreate with. She's very conscious and intentional about how she shares her energy, because she knows the value of it. She knows the power of that force. So she's not going to just, pretty much just like squander it on any whim. Queen of Wands can definitely, Wand energy in general can be impulsive, but the Queen of Wands in the high vibration is considerate. She's not compulsive or impulsive. She's considerate of her investments. And now it's like this energy is looking either to align with a force such as that, as I was saying before, like this pursuit, this obsession to come up again, to put themselves in a position of value again, of prominence, of power in some way, shape, or form. And I would say that still, even still, if this was like the Queen of Cups, I would say, as I've been saying, that is still an energy that can't really be taken seriously, because the Queen of Cups would actually imply to me that if this King of Cups is authentic in his ascendance and really, in that position of healing and that he is projecting to be, he wouldn't be looking in a lustful way at an object of affection, which is what this implies, that he's seeing the Queen of Wands as an attractive force, something that he wants to conquer, connect with, create with, to gain power from, literally, because she possesses this Queen of Cups, or there's an opportunity to, upgrade his cup in a sense. Again, this obsession with prominence, but it's not pure. It's not for love's sake. That's all this is screaming. And it's because we're still, as I've been saying, in Mercury. Well, now we definitely are in Mercury retrograde. F what you heard about the pre-shadow. Yes, it doesn't officially start until the 23rd. But when I tell you the retrograde is retrograding, it most certainly is. Like, this pre-shadow is weirder than anyone that I've ever experienced. I hope that it's going to be the most of it, and we'll be in more of a flow of expectation by the time it hits full throttle. But when I tell you, like, already travel plans, I mean, seriously, like, things change at the drop of a dime. Plans that I had set out for were like getting delayed, and I had detours in my travel, like left and right, literally. And it was just a simple little excursion. It wasn't even anything major. And even for that, I had planned far in the distance. So I'm just saying that to say that the effects of Mercury retrograde, in addition to Venus in retrograde, which is taking into account our partnerships, our relationships, our relationship to money, but not just money, to everything, people, places, and things, like how relatable we are, the reverence of our relationships, and the responsibility that we carry within them, whether it be justified or not, literally with the Justice card and Venus being the topic of this, this statement at this time. Libra energy, Venus ruled, it's about really justifying your partnerships, making sense of them, bringing them into balance. There's been really no balance in the synergy between this character and his endeavors. It's been imbalanced across the board in every derogatory card. The only thing balanced is the 10 of Pentacles, and that's the object of his affections. Ultimately, it's not the Queen of Wands. It's not love for love's sake. It's not even stability for stability's sake. It's still the objectivity of being rich and wealthy beyond measure, and why? Because there's some obsession with power and prominence for the projection of appearances, truly, ultimately. And because the universe is over that and judgment's already been called on those intentions and those motives, like, the earth cannot sustain, this realm cannot be sustained on those vibrations anymore. We're going to self-destruct if people keep...
My stomach hurts. I kind of feel like I have to throw up.
Okay, I'll be right there.
Okay.
Get the peppermint. I'll be right there. Okay. To wrap it up, there is, this pursuit of, and I feel like that's even... that even plays into this, this imbalance, it's something that is not sustaining. It's very, like I said, it's dis-ease, it's ill-fated even, it's ill, it's malintentioned, and it causes literal dis-ease and illness in the spirit. And because that's what's been running rampant and rancid, literally, in our universe, it's time. It's just the justice and the judgment of such for it to be balanced out. So anything that is insisting to persist in that vibration is ultimately going to be brought back down to zero, to either begin again and really truly get the enlightenment that's needed to move forward in the highest vibration, or to, either to be transformed or transitioned. And when I say transitioned, you know what I mean. That judgment card, some may be lifted up, some may be laid to rest. Those that refuse to change and to evolve, with the way of the universe. That's the justice of the land. So there's really not much more to say about it, honestly, especially now with this, suddenly popping up. Expect the unexpected. But the idea really truly is, it's just to be discerning in these moments of connection that occur and that present themselves, because you've clearly, what I will say is that there's clearly been some elevation of power and creativity that has happened, justifiably so and spiritually so, in an ordained spiritual perspective, that will put you in a high position to, wield this power in a very productive and prosperous way, which makes you, in fact, a very attractive force to anybody. The one that is deserving to connect with that vibration, but most certainly for ones that know that they have no claim to your vibration whatsoever, and that they shouldn't even try it. But in fact, they may, if they can muster up the energy to do so and aren't caught in their own circumstances, which I think is a lot of it anyway. But be mindful of the projection of these intentions, if people just wanted to just kind of stick their nose into your energetic vibration to see where they can cause a disturbance or a disruption or some unrest, or project their dis-ease onto you, even if it's just from a psychological or energetic point of view. It might not even be a physical interference. It could just, like I said, it could be mental, psychological, from a distance, literally somebody watching from a distance and having an opinion on how you present yourself and how you literally go about life and the choices that you're making. Stand firm and be fortified on the foundation that you've built, knowing that it's been built on solid ground, because you have the actual physical evidence in your being, being exalted as a Queen of Wands, someone that can manifest any possibility, and is being backed by the universe to do so. Like, you're being encouraged to express that energetic vibration. This is also Leo energy, by the way. And that's the spirit of the time that we're in, to be unapologetic about our creative force, be unique and vibrant in what we express. And that there may be individuals that would want to present themselves to be an obstruction or an adverse to that vibration, but ultimately they're of no consequence, really, and anyone that is looking to be of consequence is ultimately just, creating consequences for themselves to manage. Point blank, period. All right. And in that regard, I'll end it here. Until next time, peace.